Hello, lovely souls. Welcome to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I'm Christina Larero, a certified angel messenger and angel Reiki master teacher. My spiritual journey began in the spring of 2022 when my spirit team nudged me to listen to the amazing Angels and Awakening podcast by Julie Jancis. Since then, I've been learning to use my spiritual gifts and growing increasingly curious about spirituality and the various healing modalities. I'm so excited for you to join me on this special journey as we dive into spirituality and healing while exchanging our wisdom and profound insights with other remarkable healers. So grab a cup of coffee or tea, get cozy, and let's embark on the spiritual journey together. Hey there, it's Christina the Angel Messenger here. I just wanted to remind you to stay connected with me for all the latest updates and angel messages. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook at Christina Angel Messenger. Remember, that's Christina. If you're interested in an angel Reiki session, you can book one virtually or in person through my website at www.christinaangelmessenger.com. Remember, that's Christina angelmessenger.com. Stay tuned for more uplifting, insightful content on this podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hello, lovely souls. Welcome back to the Awakening to Your Soul Self podcast. I have Andrea Lange here. She is a heart healer, and we are going to talk about many things today. We're going to talk about her spiritual awakening, heart healing, ancestral heart healing, and quantum heart healing. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here, Christina.
Perfect. So I always love for my guests to introduce themselves. So who are you and what do you do?
Okay, so my name is Andrea Lange. That's the way how you say it in German. I am German and I am from Hamburg in Germany, and that's where I grew up. And I moved to San Francisco in 2000, actually. My background is in graphic design. That used to be my first career, and I'm still like a graphic designer by heart, and it really helps me in my business, absolutely. But in Germany, I worked for marketing agencies. I worked for advertising agencies before I discovered my love for magazine design. In Germany, I worked for Men's Health magazine, this fitness magazine. And then in San Francisco, I was the art director of San Francisco magazine. And then I got pregnant with my first son, had two boys. And when they were little, I was freelancing as a designer, and then eventually became a coach. And I started coaching commercial photographers, and I helped them with how to position and present themselves. And that also made me realize how shy a lot of photographers are, and they're very comfortable behind the camera, not so much in front. So working with them, like what I did, the coaching definitely helped them and shifted the needle. But I got more and more interesting in finding out how I can help them to overcome their resistance and being more visible and really going towards clients, talking to them. There was a lot of shyness and a lot of hesitance about raising their fees because underneath they didn't feel worthy of asking for more. And that made me become very interesting in different kinds of modalities, how I can help them. And so in 2022, I became a hypnotherapist and a certified heart healing practitioner to help my clients with the underlying limiting beliefs and the old patterns that actually were in their way to be more successful and be more confident and more proactive in moving their business forward.
That's amazing. So you just touched upon how you started being a heart healer. I'd love to know if you're comfortable talking about like what was your spiritual awakening? Like what sparked that heart healer?
Oh, so spiritual awakening for me, it was more like gradual process when I was a teenager. So I became very spiritual, interested as a teenager. Like when I grew up, there was times where I felt like I think I ended up in the wrong family. And I know a lot of my clients have this too. We are like, I don't know, I'm just different than the others. I was always very, very sensitive and noticed things that others didn't notice. And as a teenager, what shifted the needle was reading Louise Hay's book, You
Yeah.
Can Heal Your Life. That really changed my life. And it's very spiritual. And that's when I got into affirmations. And it was very, yeah, transformative for me. I also read the book from Dan Millman, The Peaceful Warrior. That also shifted a lot in me. And so from then, I did a lot of reading and changing, and I had spiritual experiences in my early 20s. And yeah, that just sparked my interest in looking onto different levels and seeing the world that we're living in with very different eyes than most people around me. And so, yeah, when I was looking for a different modality to help my clients, I knew it was healing. I knew it was spirituality. And it took me actually a while to openly also on social media use the word
Hmm.
spirituality. It took me a while to come out of the spiritual closet
Yeah.
publicly, definitely.
Yeah. So let's dive into heart healing.
Mhm.
For those that don't know, I'd love for you to talk about what it is and who does it help. We'll start with it.
Yeah. So heart healing is really a revolutionary healing process where we are healing our clients' hearts. It's a process
Mhm.
where I'm using hypnosis. So the important part is that it's not like talk therapy. Talk therapy is that you're meeting with a therapist, you're sitting together, you are looking at each other, you have your eyes open, and it's all very conscious.
Yeah.
You are diving into what happened back then as a child, for example. With heart healing, it's a subconscious process. So I'm helping my client to um, close their eyes and get into a very deep state where they can access things that are in the subconscious mind that they usually cannot access because we know so much more that we cannot access with our awake conscious mind. And in that state, I'm guiding them into a journey into their body, into their heart. And that's where we are meeting their inner child, because most of the difficulties that we have as adults now are connected to something that happened to us when we were very little or teenagers. And the whole heart healing work is about getting to the root causes of why are you not feeling enough? Why are you not feeling lovable? Why are you always holding yourself back and giving room for other people and let them shine? So this is the heart healing process. So what we're basically doing in one heart healing session is that I'm working with a client on the conscious level, on the
Hmm.
subconscious level, on a spiritual level, and also on the energetic level. And so
Wow.
that makes it really, really powerful because we are working on different levels. And I have a lot of testimonials from clients saying, like, wow, I did all these years of therapy, but we never even went close to what we touched
Mm.
on in a single session. And there's just a lot of release because it's all of a sudden you understand more what happened, you're
Yeah.
able to release it, you can get more into love for yourself and others, and you can just, yeah, release the energetic connection to what happened back then. And that shifts everything internally. And all of a sudden, people are like not feeling triggered anymore by mom, for example.
Yeah. I mean, that's beautiful. I think we all need some heart healing. So, you said the first session you start with one level and then you go to the next and the next.
Mm-hmm.
Could you kind of walk through like what happens during a heart healing session on each level?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it all the same in each level?
Well, there is a well, we will get into it. I'm certified in a lot of different kinds of heart healing processes, but the main heart healing process is about healing the receiving wounds. And very often, the first one that we're working on is the enoughness wound, because most people are struggling with some kind of I'm not feeling good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not successful enough, I'm not pretty enough. All these enoughness that
Yeah.
we took on possibly from someone who said something, and maybe it was totally unintentional, but what we took in for ourselves is that we are not enough. Maybe the sister or brother are more worthy or whatever, and we think
Mm.
like we are not enough. We were never good enough in school or never good enough in sports or whatever it is. So in a heart healing enoughness session, the whole process, it's not just the healing session itself, it's a whole process that I'm
Okay.
guiding the client through. And it starts with an intake form where the client answers a lot of very deep questions. This already starts the transformational process for them, because they're already getting aware of certain things about themselves. And
Mm-hmm.
they also get like a recording that we're calling Feeling Safe, so that they can start listening to the recording and get used to my hypnotic voice. When I am working with clients, my voice is different. And one thing that I hear from all clients is that they're like saying always like, I love your voice. So
Mm-hmm.
it resonates with them. They can really relax and go deep. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, this feeling safe audio is something that they're getting before we actually having the heart healing session.
Okay.
And that prepares them for the session and to really, you know, get themselves ready for very deep, profound work with me. And then I will receive the intake form. I'll go through it, prepare for the session. Every session is completely different,
Mm.
very personalized for each client. We never know what happens in the session. That makes it also very exciting and
Yeah.
sometimes very surprising for the client. I had sessions where I think me and the client thought, oh, we might talk about something about mom or dad. But
Yeah.
then in the enoughness session, all of a sudden it was about a teacher. It was about
Oh.
an experience where the teacher really made that client super embarrassed in front of the whole class. And that
Oh,
had
wow.
a really big impact on not wanting to be visible and be in front of people. And so we never really know what shows up and who shows up. But in the heart healing session itself, I guide the client into, in hypnosis, we call it induction. I help them to go to a deeper subconscious state where they can totally relax and they have their eyes open. And I do these sessions either on Zoom or in person for local people in my area. But they just close their eyes and totally relax. But in this session, we still have a conversation. A lot of people call this part, they call it like a meditate, like a meditation that they're
Yeah.
listening to. And so they get into a very deep state, and I help
Mm-hmm.
them to get into um, imagining that they're getting into their body, into their heart, because for very analytical thinkers, this might be hard to imagine. What do you mean I'm going into my heart? But it's
Yeah.
just an internal journey. The same like if you have a grandmother that passed away, but in your mind, you can still go to her house and go
Mm.
visit,
Yeah.
It's kind of like that. You're doing an internal journey into your body, and you meet your inner child, a younger version of yourself, to find out like what is the root cause, what happened, why do you feel not enough. And from that, I'm guiding the client through a process where we are really finding out what's going on and what happened, so that the client gets more understanding what happened. And then we're bringing in the higher self to connect with the client and get some guidance. We are in basically cutting the cords between the client and the person and what happened. And every session is very different because some people, everyone has a different relationship. Let's say the session is about the mother, and
Mm-hmm.
some people have a very loving relationship with their mom, but something when they were kids was off. Maybe the mom was very different and is now much more loving now. Maybe mom had 6 children, was just freaking, stressed out.
Mm,
This,
yeah.
this, this happens often, and then kids don't be seen because there were so many siblings. Um, and so, yeah, some people have a good relationship with the mom, but some had, for example, a narcissistic mom, and the relationship was and still is very toxic. And based on how the relationship is, just based on that, the whole session is very different, because
Oh, yeah.
for some people they want to get closer with mom and clear things and get even closer, and for some people it's really important to create very clear boundaries and make sure that they're
Mm,
safe and protected from the toxicity from this person, from mom, for example. So and that all comes out in the session and also through the intake form. But that's why these sessions are so different every time, and everyone gets what they need, basically. And I'm always checking in, what the client wants. It's basically, I'm holding the space, the healing
yeah.
space. I'm guiding them through a process, but it's all led by the client, how much healing they want. And sometimes I see things that
Yeah.
we could work on, but we're just going wherever the client is ready to go to. And so, yeah. And just to let you know, the client could open up the eyes anytime they want to, if they're not feeling safe or whatever, if they're
Mm,
too much in their head. But I've never had that happen. People are
yeah.
there because they want to work on it and they want healing.
And I would imagine it would take more than one session for certain people, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, definitely. And it is, I'm sure you and many people that are hearing this have heard of healing is like peeling an onion.
Yeah.
you know you might have healed your enoughness now, but in 5 years maybe you don't have your own business now, but in 5 years you want to start your own business. All of a sudden the enoughness comes back just in a different
Mm,
way, and you're like, oh my god, I'm not feeling enough, I thought I'm done with this. But it can show up. Or you have your own children, that can trigger a lot
mm.
of new things that you need to review, but then you've already worked through it, so it's easier and faster to work on certain wounds that you've healed to a certain degree already.
That's beautiful. I love what you're doing with heart healing. I think everybody needs some type of healing, whether it be heart healing or inner child work or a combination of that. Um, and I love that you bring the inner child in because that's where a lot of our healing stems from, is our childhood and how our inner child might have not, felt love at a certain point in time or didn't feel enough or have self-doubt. So that's really beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And um, you can have major transformation from one session. Just to let you know,
Oh, wow.
I have one client who has a narcissistic mom. This client got triggered very easily by mom, very difficult relationship. And we did a single heart healing enoughness session, and this client is not getting triggered by, oh, my mom has her birthday. And I didn't get triggered to send a message or anything. I was just like, oh, it's her birthday, whatever. It's
Hmm.
like this client takes better care of their health. This,
Yeah.
which is huge, which this client wasn't able to do before. It was always making sure to please other people because that was the role this client has as a kid with this narcissistic mom. It was always what she wanted. And in one session, and this client will continue working with me, but it is just the client also said, like, the heart healing enoughness session I would pay $1,000, which is
Hmm.
not just like more than 3 times as much, because
Yeah.
it made such a profound shift for this client. And the client did therapy and other modalities before and went to church and got like counseling there. And it's amazing. I'm always blown away by the results that my clients get. Yeah.
That's truly amazing and transformational because, I've talked about therapy before where it doesn't always take one session to heal your wounds, but just to hear that story, how
Mm.
one session, it's such a big difference in her life. That just shows how powerful, you know, energy work and healing can really do for somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I cannot guarantee that, because everyone is different
Yeah, of
and
course.
everyone is on a totally different level of their healing. Some people are just starting, some people have done so much, but they still feel like there's still something holding me back and I don't know what it is.
Yeah. And I think, not knowing is
Mm.
also what's stopping us as well,
Mhm.
because we can't put a name or a place or an experience to it. So when we do the heart healing, we can really drill down and find out where that's coming from.
Yeah, and especially very often it is a surprise what shows up. It's because we're in the subconscious. And I do need to say that in the first 7 years of our life when we're kids, so from 0 to 6 to 7, we are taking everything in through our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And so we're like sponges, and this is like later in life, the beliefs that we have, they're all based on the beliefs that we built when we were little. And when we are not taking the time to review these beliefs that we have that are very often limiting, is then we are making life decisions based on that.
Yeah.
Then if we are not loving ourselves, we might look for a partner that loves us in a way that we need it, to fill the hole in
Mhm.
ourselves, instead of healing ourselves first. So we don't need anyone to fill that hole. We love ourselves and we can open heartedly love others. And that's a very different place to come from. And that's what the heart healing is all about, helping people to become whole again. And so the first session, what we do, that I do with clients, is working on the enoughness wounds. And then the bigger package is working on the other 4 receiving wounds. And that's my heart healing deep dive package. And that's where we work on the love wound, the trust wound, the worth wound, and the acceptance wounds.
Those are some big wounds.
And so, yeah, that's like a 3 months package. And that is a really deep transformation. And people that are ready for really going deep and working on all these different levels, it's priceless. It just makes such a tremendous shift. And people are, mm, you know, I have clients that were overthinkers, always stressed out what the other people are thinking, people pleasing, and overgiving, and
Yeah.
being just stressed out all the time. All of a sudden, they have inner peace. And
Mm.
when you hear inner peace, you think, oh, that's not a big thing. It's a huge thing
Huge.
for a lot of people that are anxious and struggling how to be in life, and yeah, just coming back to yourself and coming from a different place, and not like, oh, I have to do this or say this to please others or to be accepted by others, is huge. And clients, they all of a sudden have the guts to talk to their
Yeah.
employers, to get more money, to get a different position, to change careers, to say no to a partner that just doesn't work out anymore, and just like peace with a parent that you struggled with, sometimes
Mm.
also with parents that already passed away, and
Yeah.
you can't talk with them. But from my own experience, I healed my mother wound with heart healing.
Hmm.
Healing my mom is still alive. It was not about healing it with my mom. It was just healing my stories, my old
Oh, okay.
experiences, my wounds. And since I was able to do that with heart healing, and I've done talk therapy, and I love talk therapy. It's really, really important, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a very different modality. Um, so yeah, I'm just amazed how much I was able to shift things inside of myself to heal with my mom, and I have a very different relationship with her now.
That's beautiful. I love that you kind of brought up your mom because I'd love to segue into ancestral heart healing. Can you go to into that? That's the next level, right?
Yes, ancestral heart healing is, you know, especially for some people that have done a lot of healing and they're like, I healed so much already, but I feel like there is something that's not really mine. And that's where ancestral heart healing can be a huge game changer, because we all, obviously we all have parents, we all have
Mm-hmm.
grandparents, we all have great grandparents, and so on. There's a whole family line that was there before us, and whatever they experienced and the fears that they had and the traumas that they experienced through wars and through just famine and just hunger, poverty, suppression,
Yeah.
whatever they learned in their lifetime, they passed on to their children and to their grandchildren. And certain things just got passed on again and again. And we know this also in how children are getting raised. It used to be totally normal that kids are getting beaten up. They just
Mm,
got a spanking, and that was normal because everyone got spanked, because that's how you discipline children. That's how you made them to follow whatever you said as a parent. Also, because a lot of families had like not one or two kids, they had like 8 or 10 children, and so
yeah.
that was a normal way how you discipline children, and that was traumatic for a lot of people. But then they did it again with their own children, because this was just like in automatic. This is what you do when you don't know how to deal with your kids. Then you give them a spanking, because that was normalized when you grew up. So with the ancestral heart healing, we're going into the session, and the core heart healing is all about healing your own heart
Yeah.
and the wounds that were created in this life. The ancestral heart healing is going much deeper, and you are connecting with an ancestor and you're healing their heart. You're finding
Mm,
out what happened in their life. You're finding out who caused this wound in them or this trauma, and you are healing it with them together in your heart. And that is, again, for some people, probably very challenging to take that in, but it does work. It's so amazing if you are able to close your eyes. And obviously I'm guiding the clients into
yes.
it. For the ancestral heart healing, it's very important to know that before we even do a session, the client is first having a session with me, because we first need to connect to their ancestral guardian, because
Oh, okay.
you're connecting to your ancestral guardian. And it's amazing, for everyone who shows up there. And it might be someone from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. It can be someone out of your family line. It can be a great grandmother, for example, who is your ancestral guardian. So it's very different for everyone. And it's important to connect to that person first, and then we're going into the ancestral heart healing session, because the ancestral guardian is coming along, coming on this
Mm,
healing journey, protecting the client, because we're going into very old times, and it might be times of war and whatnot. And it's the most important thing for all heart healing sessions is that the client feels safe.
absolutely.
you know and in some heart healing sessions, I go in the heart with the client to protect them, to help them, to give them the guidance and more protection. So that is always the most important thing. And then we are just exploring what happens. And sometimes clients know the name of that person. Sometimes just like I'm seeing a man having the head hang down, the shoulders down, they feel defeated. They were forced to go into war. They never wanted to, but they had to. And it was the dad, or maybe it was society and circumstances that made them do this. And then we heal whatever needs healing. They
Mm.
might have lost the whole family and they're alone, and their struggle with that. So, and with the ancestral heart healing, we are having 4 core wounds that we are healing. And I want to share like 2 of them with you and the listeners.
Perfect.
And one of the wounds is peace, which is so huge because our ancestors went through so many wars. No matter where your
Yes.
family came from, there has been a lot of war, and it's time to heal the peace wound, because usually we humans, we want peace. We want peace for ourselves, for our family, for our community, for our countries. And the other big wound is safety, because so
Ooh.
often we did not feel safe. And it's really important to heal that, to finally feel safe again. And these wounds do play a role in our lives now. And I can share with you like an example. When I did the peace wound
Yeah.
session, what happened to me was like, I couldn't find a name. I had like German names of men like flying by me, and I couldn't grab one. It was a really bizarre experience.
Oh.
And then, it became clear it's a lineage. It's like so many generations had this wound around war and peace. And until I like landed just on a figure, on a person who was feeling so defeated and had this body posture, like language of being totally defeated. And this person felt totally hopeless and powerless and sad. And he lost like family, like the core family members, and everything was
Yeah.
taken away from him. He just was broken and delusional, and so not disillusioned. Is that the right word? Yes. And so we healed that. We healed what happened, and that it wasn't his fault that all these things happened. He was forced by circumstances. So I was able to heal his heart. But then also we looked at the connections, and I do that with my clients. And how did that play out in your life now? And for me, it was like that my family members, were forced to go to war in the Second World War. My family is from Germany, and
Mm-hmm.
that had a tremendous impact on my family. And I, to this day, have such a strong resistance to be manipulated by
Yep.
others, like, because that was the mass manipulation in Germany during the Second World War and before. And I have such a resistance to be a follower. I'm always very aware of what people say, and if they're just trying to manipulate me to follow them, to do their agenda. So I'm a very independent thinker. And I think that is through my lineage, and especially through growing up in past war Germany, and I felt so guilty as a kid to be German. I was so ashamed to be German because I couldn't
Mm.
understand how this all happened and how people were so manipulated into it.
Yeah.
But as we can see now worldwide, it's possible, even though
Yes.
we have so much information now and so much understanding, and yeah, history repeats itself.
So with ancestral heart healing, do you work with more than one ancestor, or is it just like I would imagine you would work with one ancestor per session, but could it be that there are multiple ancestors needing to heal different wounds?
That could be, but we're focused on one wound The
One wound.
session is
Okay.
geared towards one wound. Let's say it's safety. We're focused on safety. It can happen that more than one person shows up, but then I'm guiding my client to identify who is the core person.
Okay.
And sometimes it's the same in core heart healing. Sometimes mom, dad, maybe siblings, everyone shows up, and then we're just identifying like, okay, maybe you have a wound with more than one person, but then I help the client to identify who we want to work on in this session.
Okay. So I'd love to segue into quantum heart healing. Can you go into that?
Yeah, actually, before I go into that, I do need to also, because I'm also doing past life heart
Oh,
healing.
that's right. Yes.
Yeah. And so with past life heart healing, it is again like that you're not going into you healing your own heart, you're healing a heart from one of your past lives. And I believe in reincarnation. And
Yep.
if you don't believe in reincarnation, it's probably difficult for you to do a past life heart healing session because you don't believe you had a life before.
Hmm.
But for the people that are believing in it, and maybe they had experiences or have this strong feeling that it makes sense to them. So in the past life heart healing session, we are again, it's a similar process. We have four different kinds of wounds that we can work on. But it's a similar process. We don't have the ancestral guide because it is different, because it is you just in a different life. It's basically the
Right.
same soul, so it's a little bit different. We do, and in every session, we can always get in any kind of angels or spiritual guidance, whatever the client needs. And we can definitely bring that in. But yeah, one of the big wounds with past life healing is the persecution wound. And we
Oh,
also call that the witch wound,
okay.
because a lot of us who were women, and if you really think
Yeah.
about it, we were all women and men in all kinds of different lives. But if you're a woman now and you think about that, you maybe were persecuted as a woman being a witch, basically being a healer and doing good to other people, and maybe using herbs, or maybe like Reiki, putting a hand on the belly
Hmm.
of a little child and the child feels better, and the neighbor doesn't like you and they're saying she's a witch, and then
Right.
you get persecuted for that, for having a gift of helping people. That often is still in our epigenetics. It's deep ingrained in us that we still think now, maybe you're a coach, maybe you are interested in becoming a healer, or you're a healer already. This can be the reason why you hold yourself back, because in the longest time ever, women were not allowed to be intelligent, educated,
Yes.
independent, being healers, being different than others. It was not safe to really be ourselves. And that's why this is a really important wound to heal and see what shows up. And obviously, it could be also a life when you were a man, where you were persecuted for something, because there were a lot of people over the centuries persecuted for their religious belief, for example.
Right. Yeah. Past lives. It's definitely very interesting to go into, especially if you believe in it. Um, that there are a lot of wounds that we experience and lessons that we learn from past experiences, past lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And we have, and that's very interesting for me and also for my clients to find out. In these past life sessions, you might be able to see a thread, certain kinds of themes that go through your life that you are dealing with again and again.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. And one of the other wounds that we're working with is the protege wound,
Oh,
like where you're like the assistant and then you work for the master, for example. and
Okay.
this imbalance between and this sometimes can show up in this life as well, when you are believing a guru and you follow a guru and you're the
Yeah.
follower, you know, or there's like the super coach and you're following the super coach and believe everything that they say. It's a certain dynamic where you give up maybe certain ways of being independent because you lift other people up so much and believe in them. And I had like an experience when I healed a protege wound, where I was actually a man, and it was in the early of the 1900s, and I was a scientist. I was super smart, brilliant, and very organized, and moved certain projects forward. But then my protege, like the
Yeah.
person above me, earned all the rewards. It's like
Oh, wow.
there was like the results were published, but my name was never mentioned, even though I mostly did everything, you
Ooh.
know?
Yeah.
And so then I was not seen for all the amazing work that I've done,
Mm.
while someone else received it. I didn't get much money. I didn't get any credit. No one knew that I was the driving force behind it. And so that is just also then how for me it repeated itself when I worked in an ad agency, and I worked so many hours, and always said, yeah, sure, I can work until midnight again. I
Yeah.
never got paid for it,
Oh,
and didn't
wow.
get the credit for it, besides, oh, thank you, that was great. And until I got a burnout. And that's when I did talk therapy, and I had to just realize, why do I not have healthy boundaries? Why didn't I say not no? Why did I let them take advantage of me? And so yeah, it's very powerful to go also into the past lives to see what happened in different lives and how that showed up.
Yeah. And also to see, like, what lessons we learned or what lessons we're still learning. I find that sometimes our past lives repeat the same lessons because we haven't
Mhm.
learned them in the past lives.
Yeah, that's absolutely. I've done a past life regression training like 2 years ago. And I was a teacher before Christ, really, really long time ago.
Wow.
And I had pupils. And that was before I healed my I'm not good enough wound. And I'm like, okay, this topic came up again in that session, and I'm like, yeah, I will probably hear now from my pupils that I wasn't a good teacher, that I wasn't good enough. And to my surprise, I found out that my pupils really loved me as a teacher, and that totally baffled me, because my conscious mind from this life totally believed I sucked. I was probably not a
Right.
good teacher. And then it totally surprised me to find out that they saw me as a really good teacher, because
Wow.
I had like throughout this life, I had a mantra going because I didn't like school. I always
Mm.
had the underlying mantra, I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. And I'm always like, where is this coming from? Probably from this life, that I didn't
Yeah.
like school. And then
Hmm.
this showed up in this session. And I'm like, actually, I was a good teacher. I just never
Yeah.
believed it.
So true. So, um, is there anything else that you want to bring up about ancestral heart healing or past life healing before we go on to the quantum healing?
No, no, it's just, I just want to say that these are all their own modalities, depending
Okay.
on what the client wants to work on, and, what kind of healing they have done. Depending, I would probably have a conversation with a new client first to see if it makes sense to first work on the wounds from this life, but maybe they have healed so much already that they're like, no, I know there's something in my family line, or I know there's something in my past life. And then we can do these kinds of sessions. But
Yeah.
yeah, no, talking about it, that totally leads into what quantum heart healing actually is.
All right, go ahead. I'll let you take the wheel. It is quantum
Okay.
heart healing.
Yeah. So quantum heart healing, this is a process. It's a unique blend of science and spirituality on the quantum level. And this helps you to discover the heart wounds of humanity and past life heart wounds, and then also your wounds now. So when I do a quantum heart healing session is longer than all the other sessions. The other heart healing and ancestral heart healing and past life healings, they're about 60 minutes. I
Okay.
go longer. It's not like, like going to a therapist
Yeah.
and when the hour is up, you're like, okay, I'll see you next week,
Goodbye.
because we're deep in the healing. So this
Yeah.
is just important to also share. But the quantum heart healing is right out of the bat, a 1.5 hour session. So 90
Oh,
minutes
cool.
or longer if need to. But in the quantum heart healing session, we start with healing a specific wounds, for example, the wealth wound, on the ancestral level, on the past life level, and the quantum level. Sorry, on the ancestral level, the the ancestral level, the past life level, and the core heart healing. So this life, basically. And I'm just looking at my notes. So yeah, it's basically first ancestral, then past life, and then this life. And it's all about wealth. And how did that show up on these 3 different levels? And doing that all in one session is like a major transformation around, for example, wealth.
Yeah.
And it could be something else. Someone might say, like, man, this enoughness wound is so intense for me, and they want to do a quantum heart healing session around enoughness or around the love wound, not feeling lovable, not being able to love others, not feeling loved by others.
That's amazing. There's so many different healers and different healing modalities out there. But I love the core healing. Um,
Mhm.
I feel like that is really important that we need to learn to heal our wounds. I feel like sometimes in this world, in the society, is that we just accept our wounds and we just, keep running with them. But we can learn to heal from them. I think is very important. And it changes our way that we think and we see things and how we feel about things, and we don't get triggered as much once we heal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's crucial. And if you are on a spiritual path, really spirituality is all about to get to know yourself better, how
Yeah.
you function, how you work, why you do things the way you do. And if you realize, I don't want to do that anymore, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore, I'm not feeling well, what can I change? I'm not happy in this career. I actually always dreamed about moving to a different city or state or country. It's like these are all nudges from your higher self to move forward. But it's interesting when I did talk therapy after I had the burnout. I told my therapist, I I just freelanced in Budapest, and it was like after the
Mhm.
wall came down, and it was like the Wild West, going into the eastern states while I still lived in Germany. And I told her I want to work for an ad agency in Budapest. And she was
Wow.
like, well, just to let you know, if we're interrupting or stopping now the therapy that you just started, is you will go to Budapest with your bag with all the issues you haven't worked on yet and resolved.
Mhm.
This baggage will come with you, but right now you have the opportunity to work on it.
Yeah.
And Germany is different, but my health insurance paid for therapy. She's like, you are able to get therapy right now, paid through the insurance. Think about that. And that shifted my decision. And I'm glad I didn't go, because I just had a burnout in an agency, and then I would have gone straight back into an environment that wasn't healthy for me.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think we think we're healed, or we're starting the healing process, and then we're like, all right, we're done. And then it comes back and creeps up, and it's like, no, you're not done. It's like the inner child work. The inner child work is going to be a lifetime of healing. I feel that we all have to, give love to our inner child, and really tune into ourselves, inner child, our heart, um, and our ancestors, and just everything around us, because life is a journey and everything is energy. So we're going to get into these hiccups where we need to be like, okay, I need to do a heart healing session, or I need to work on my inner child, and just listen to what my body, my mind, my soul needs.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And it's really awakening to your soul self starts by healing your heart.
Yeah,
Yeah. Because you
absolutely.
can, it's like, and people that are on a spiritual journey understand this more and more, is that you cannot fix it outside of yourself. You cannot fix, if you're not feeling worthy, you cannot fix it to get the better job, to make more money, to have this beautiful house or apartment with the
Yeah,
most amazing furnitures, and it looks like in a catalog, and you're like, look, but you still feel empty or
yeah.
small, or you're not lovable. So you will not find happiness in money. You will find happiness on only when you go inward and you are healing whatever needs healing.
That's beautiful. I think that's a perfect segue to wrap up this podcast episode. So, Andrea, where can people find you? Do you have social media? What's your website, and what offerings do you have?
Yes, so my website is my name and coaching. So I say it in the American way, Andrea Lange with an E at the end, and coaching all in one word.com. And when you go to my website, you can sign up for my newsletter. And that way you're always up to date about any new offerings. What I'm doing is I'm doing group heart healing taster sessions where you can experience heart healing for free. And you have, you can experience this and see if it's the right process for you. Because heart healing is still fairly new. I think now it's 4 years old when my mentor created it and channeled parts of it, the core heart healing. And a lot of people just don't know what it is and how profound transformational it can be for you. So that's why I'm always offering free ways of experience it. I right now have an offer, and I will also share the link with you. It's called From Self-Doubt to Success. And this is a special offer for only $47. You can get direct feedback from me about why you're struggling with success. And I'm guiding you through a little personalized heart healing taster session. And so people are filling out an intake form. And then based on that intake form, I'm recording a video and share
Yep.
about my thoughts and give suggestions and inspirations, and then guide them through a heart healing taster session. And they can, that's their video to have.
That's
And
amazing.
yeah, and that's I have that under andrealangcoaching.com
Mm.
slash success dash audit, and I will send you the
Ooh.
link. So, and I'm really excited about that, because that's a really amazing. It's a low investment, and you can get to know me. You get a lot of value out of it, and a heart healing session. And I have a lot of testimonials also from people that just did a heart healing taster session, and a lot of things shifted for them just from that session. So
Ooh.
it's really powerful. And so, yeah, people can also send me an email just saying info@andrealangcoaching.com. But my Instagram is so instagram.com and then Andrea Lang in one word _ coaching. And then also you can find me on Facebook, and that's andrea.lang.coaching.
Perfect. Thank you, Andrea, so much. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Okay, you're so welcome. I'm so happy to talk with you about heart healing because I'm excited that more people know about it. My mentor actually will be in a documentary later this year. So this process will go out to millions and more people will know about it.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, she's doing the documentary with Dr. Joe, not Joe Dispenza. Now I'm blanking on his name. Joe D.
Well, if you remember, you just send me the link and I'll put it in the show notes.
Yes.
I actually haven't heard of heart healing until we started talking, so I really hope this gets out to many, many people. I feel like this is going to be a powerful modality.
Yes, it will be. Especially this documentary is apparently will be as big as The Secret.
Wow.
Because this guy was in The Secret as well, and I'm bummed that I didn't write it down, and I can't find his name right now.
All right, we'll have that in the show notes. We'll have all of your links in the show notes. If you're interested in having a healing with Andrea, please go down in the show notes, follow her on Instagram, go to her website. As always, friends, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. I'll see you next Monday.